Stage 3 English involves a wide range of skills and knowledge. I think we'd all agree that integrating all English strands into single programs has been a challenge, especially when it comes to ensuring we cater to the needs of students of high or low capabilities in certain areas, for reasons of disability, language, or social and cultural background. I'd like to propose we look to the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL framework, as a means of organising our teaching and learning even more effectively. Developed by CAST, the Centre for Applied Special Technology, UDL finds its roots in architecture. Universal Design in Architecture describes an approach to designing buildings that are accessible to as many people as possible. A ramp installed at the entrance to a building benefits people using wheelchairs and is a detriment to no one. In the same way, UDL puts in place strategies and interventions to benefit students that may not usually be able to access a curriculum through traditional lessons, but in turn benefits all learners by providing variety, choice, and multimodality. UDL was originally developed for students with special needs, particularly within mainstream classroom context, and as such, at its heart, is flexibility, support for student needs. This framework puts students front and centre right from the beginning of the planning process through to assessment and evaluation, which sees teachers putting value in student diversity. In short, UDL allows us as teachers to work smarter, not harder, by engaging in what CAP in 2016 concludes is proactive programming. Before I explain how I think UDL suits our context, I think it's important we understand the foundations of this framework, its scientific basis and researched outcomes. UDL employs understanding about the way in which the brain processes information, focusing on 3 key regions, and uses that as a framework for learning design. Affective networks can be thought of as the why of learning, according to Robinson's research in 2017. Essentially, this area of the brain is responsible for engagement in a task. By tapping into our students' affective networks, we can ensure students are intrinsically motivated and excited by what they're learning. The recognition network describes the what of learning. UDL advocates teachers build a variety of ways to communicate content into programming to make sure all students understand as much as possible. Strategic networks are the third and final region of the brain. The focus here is on ensuring students are presented with a variety of ways to demonstrate their learning. This graphic organizer outlines the fundamentals of UDL, the 3 pillars. While you can read through the finer details in your own time, I will briefly explain each part using examples of how they can be applied in a typical Stage 3 context. Representation looks at the actual materials used to communicate content to students. This can be as simple as ensuring closed captioning is turned on when viewing videos, using symbols as well as concrete materials in maths, priming students with key vocabulary prior to exploring a new concept, or activating prior knowledge by having students make connections between new information presented and their existing knowledge on related topics through the use of graphic organizers, metacognition, etc. A teacher may provide multiple means of action and expression by allowing students choices in the way they communicate their learning, scaffolding the learning process through effective goal setting, graphic organization and metacognition, or monitoring student progress through mentoring and feedback routines. UDL encompasses 2 key elements of student engagement, both activating students' initial interest and sustaining that interest throughout a task or unit and beyond, as well as self-regulation. This could take the form of incorporating student choice as a key part of a unit, or be as simple as ensuring students feel confident to take risks by building guides into a learning experience so that students feel supported. While UDL is a relatively new concept in teaching, numerous studies point to the effectiveness of this framework. Peggy Coyne and her colleagues in particular have carried out studies relevant to our context. Coyne and her colleagues in 2012 looked at implementing meaningful literacy learning using UDL with primary school students and saw significant gains in student achievement. Coyne and her colleagues again in 2017 then carried out a follow-up study looking at literacy teaching in middle school classrooms, a context very close to our own, and again saw positive effects of UDL implementation in literacy lessons, noting in particular the success of embracing technological resources and interventions, as well as emphasizing student autonomy, something we are definitely equipped to take on in our own context. UDL has unique student needs at its heart, and in Stage 3 we have a number of students who could benefit from its implementation across our curriculum. These include our students with English as an additional language, students identified as having mental processing impairments, Aboriginal Australian students, and gifted students. All of these students require programming adjustments in some way. With UDL, we can build those adjustments into the planning so that they can access the curriculum as much as possible at all times. First, I think it's important for us to all understand what a UDL classroom looks like. In this way, we can pinpoint areas of both similarity and contrast to our current practice and better devise our next steps. UDL bears a lot of resemblance to differentiation in that it focuses on curriculum alterations to address student needs. It is, however, different from differentiation in one key way. Differentiation mainly deals with retrospective alterations made to already established programs, which research, such as CAP in 2016, has shown has relatively modest success. On the other hand, UDL builds variety and choice into programs from the outset. In this way, UDL goes one step further than differentiation, and therefore one step further for the potential achievement of our students. Scaffolding is a key feature of the UDL classroom. Scaffolding can take many forms, including written scaffolds and jointly constructed success criteria. But at the centre of it is what Coyne and her colleagues in 2012 explains as a means to help students achieve what would usually be beyond their independent capabilities. In addition, UDL encourages us as teachers to keep learning goals at the centre of any learning experience. Research indicates that this increases student feelings of empowerment in their learning. By incorporating learning goals in this way, we can place our students in the driver's seat, controlling their own learning by making decisions about their assessments and devising effective success criteria. Essentially, a UDL classroom is a constructivist classroom, where learners are given power to self-direct their learning and delve as deeply into the curriculum as they are capable of. While UDL as a concept is new to us all, the underlying principles are not. We already implement a number of interventions that align well with the UDL pillars of representation, action and expression, and engagement. I've pulled out a few examples to demonstrate our existing use of these concepts. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list, and I would love to analyse our current practices along these guidelines once we all have a solid understanding of the UDL principles. In addition, I should note it's somewhat arbitrary to place these interventions into a single category, as many of them are multifaceted and have elements that bleed between two or even all three of the UDL pillars. Multiple means of representation is demonstrated when we vary the types of text we study in class, including novels, picture books, multimodal websites, and songs. We also represent instructions in a variety of ways, including verbally, written, and posted online for students to access themselves as needed. We encourage multiple means of action and expression, particularly through our passion projects this term, in which students are welcome to choose an area of interest to study and the mode by which they present their learning on that area of interest. The flexibility with which we move between using laptops, including a range of interactive programs and web tools such as graphic organizer tools, Coggle, etc., and traditional exercise books, also allows students to practice flexibility in the expression of their learning. Multiple means of engagement is already present through our promotion of growth mindset thinking that focuses on embracing challenges and mistakes as opportunities to learn, thereby allowing students to see and control the trajectory of their learning. Behaviour management programs such as Class Dojo also help students quantify and visualize their achievement, providing a motivating influence throughout their learning and class interactions. While there are interventions we are already implementing in our classrooms, I encourage us to take a step further in embracing UDL principles. While the possibilities are almost endless, I've compiled 3 strategies and tools that are backed by the research that we could implement now in our current context and that I think will help our particular cohort of Stage 3 students. Coyne and their colleagues in 2017 encourages embracing technology to help students immerse themselves in content studied. The school has a capacity to use Google Books, which I suggest we implement in class. Digital books in this format allow students to access dictionary definitions and additional web-based information as needed, easily annotate text, change the size of text, convert written text to audio, among other features. It is for these additional features that digital books will help a whole range of our key students, including our EAL students, students with processing impairments, and gifted students, as well as all of our students, access the information more easily. I feel that our implementation of passion projects this term has been a great demonstration of concept for giving students choice in the content and tools with which they demonstrate their learning. Hall, Strangman and Meyer in 2018 advocate for this to be implemented widely across the curriculum to allow students to demonstrate fully their understanding, unimpeded by a set task delivery style such as a written report. Widely implementing student choice throughout our teaching is something I feel our students would benefit greatly from. An issue I hear from our team members often is that students are putting great pressure on themselves to be achieving, but often cannot see the incremental improvements they are continually making through their learning. Robinson in 2017 advocates for engagement interventions such as student journals to be carried out throughout the learning cycle to allow students to have a physical record of their growth. This is something I feel our students would benefit from greatly, either through a journal targeting a particular area, such as a novel study, or their literacy learning in general. This would also complement our focus on growth mindset thinking throughout all subject areas. So where do we go from here? As we near the end of one term and begin gearing up for another, I encourage all of us to consider the UDL principles and take responsibility to make the curriculum work for all our students from the beginning. The research shows that if we can minimize barriers before students experience academic or motivational failure, then we have planned for universal learning.